one of the things I wanted to invite you into is this idea of security. Now, last year, I was fortunate enough to create a charitable organization called Operation Rescue Children. You know that there are more slaves in the world today than ever before? When I first heard that, I was like, no way, are you crazy? What are you talking about? More than Civil War days, more than, back with Moses and the people in Egypt and Israel. It's like, you gotta be crazy. Well, there's more people and there are more slaves. Estimated almost 50 million, 50 million, guys, that's more than the population of Canada. 50 million slaves today, guys. We've got to be mindful of this stuff. And so this organization I created, Operation Rescue Children, ORC, we go out and we train people how to be aware and how to stop the bad guys. It doesn't cost any of these organizations anything. We serve companies like Love Justice, Justice Ventures, Operation Underground Railroad, and we train their guys how to do a better job of surveilling, stopping, arresting, and bringing those people to justice so that we can intervene before the trafficking starts. But the sad truth is, in this country, the United States, every 2 minutes, a child is forced into slavery, sex slavery, labor slavery, forced marriages around the world. I mean, it's nonstop. And sadly enough, only 1% of those kids ever make it out alive. Guys, this is an epidemic. It's something. And this is why I'm so glad to have my brother Brian coming on. He's going to be talking to us about security. That's not just looking out, making sure someone doesn't snatch our kids. This is also, I mean, you think about what's taken our world by storm because of COVID, more so than ever, cybersecurity. And this guy is a cybersecurity expert. I mean, it's really, really amazing what he's able to do. And it's just my privilege to have him here. I mean, Brian Masterson is his name. Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you, Keith.
You're going to learn to love this guy just like I do. I get the privilege of coaching him, and he's got so many wonderful things he'll tell you. This guy's an overcomer. You can't stop this guy. You can't stop him. Brian is a spirited visionary who connects through the heart. His passion is helping, coaching, connecting people of all walks of life. He's an expert in cybersecurity. His background is providing technologically driven solutions to clients to stay safe personally and professionally in their home and in their life and in their career. He does consulting, he does software, managed services and professional services. He's been with the Air Force Global Strike Command. I mean, this guy, you want to talk about security, here's your guy. And he is developing a platform that will really help you. We're being forced into the virtual world more now than ever because of COVID. We need to listen to this, guys. And for us men who want to protect our families, that doesn't just mean punch the bad guys in the nose. You got to be aware of this. You got to be aware of this in your bank accounts. Anything that's online, guys, Brian can help you with. Brian's going to lead us with this whole idea of the metaphor of cybersecurity for living life alive, being aware, growing, doing our best. Brian, great to have you here, brother.
Thank you, Keith. Greetings, everyone. Good afternoon. Greetings from Chicago. I'm going to put up a presentation here. Let's see if you can give me access here. Keith, I just wanted to let everyone know we've been working together almost 4 years now. And I met Keith after one of Tony Robbins' UPW, Unleash the Power Within. And it's been quite a journey. I heard many stories today, wonderful stories about men. And Keith, you started off today talking about your father. And in many ways, my father is my inspiration for where I'm at today, because I didn't have a particularly close relationship with him up until the age of 19 years old. And through extensive soul searching and counseling and prayer, I was able to develop a relationship where I too, on his deathbed, was able to say, I love you. And we had a moment as adults where he apologized to me for using the belt, on his children. And he told me he shared his vulnerability regarding being scared, being an immigrant in America, and not having the tools. And I realized that whatever walk of life, he wanted to provide certainty for us and clarity, but he didn't have the emotional intelligence to do it. So the flavor that I want to take today is to share how you can protect not only yourself, your home, yourself online, but also protect your heart. So I'm taking an interesting spin on it. Let me try one more time, see if I can share this. It says that I can't access the screen here.
All right, let me try this, brother. Let's see if this works for you. How about now?
Okay, there we go. Okay, so here we go. Everyone, cybersecurity, a metaphor for living life alive. I presume you can see my screen. Okay. My name is Brian Masterson, and here is my beautiful family, my wife Janet, and our two little ones, Nora and Aiden. And yeah, we're suburbanites now. We moved from Chicago to a suburb in May, right before the craziness and the actual looting and whatnot. So madly in love with my wife and our two little children. So just a little bit about me. You mentioned I was an Air Force officer and served with distinction, top secret clearance, worked down in the silos. Our job was to fight and win nuclear war. That journey took me to a technology company where I learned the basics of networking, and God put me in a place where security just happened to be something that gravitated towards me, and I gravitated towards it. I studied at the University of Illinois, at a bachelor in English literature, and then also an MBA. And currently, I consult to enterprise organizations. So when you think about McDonald's and you think about Amway or Verizon, some of these bigger companies, it's really providing certainty for them, not only for their executives internally, but also for their customers who might be going to a website. So there's a variety of tools that we use to do that. Today, I'm just going to talk very basically about how we can protect ourselves, like I mentioned, at home and online. I serve on a big organization, Catholic Charities in Chicago, Feeding the Poor. It's been a pleasure to be with them for 15 years. I've grown immensely seeing the hearts of other men and women who serve the poor. And I already mentioned that I'm first generation of 7 or 8 kids. And why is it important? Well, I resonate with so many things like Ilya was talking about, coming from Russia. You come yourself, Ilya, and making things happen. I had to make things happen for myself. And my parents gave me the tools to do it, but I consider myself a grinder, and I'm here through God's grace. That my number one goal here is, by the end of this presentation, is I want to serve. So I have my email address up there at the end. This is about cyber, but this is also about serving. And there's been a theme here about male relationships throughout this afternoon. And I was reading John Wooden, Keith, and one of the things that he said is that make relationships a fine art. And that's my goal for 2021, is make relationships a fine art, especially male relationships. And so that's an ongoing theme. But let me continue, please. From an agenda standpoint, how you stay safe in your home, online, and in your heart, and then a call to action there. So a couple outcomes for today. Would love for you all to have a little bit of certainty online. How you approach your cyber life. When you walk away from our conversation, maybe do 1 or 2 things differently within your home or what you do online. And then just to kind of reframe maybe something around emotional intelligence with IT. How do we bring our heart, as was either John or Jake who were saying in the previous talk about, the head and the heart. And there's always this pull in between. And cyber is very head related, but there's a heart component to it as well. All right, I have to admit somebody into the waiting room here. Okay, so let me go back here a slide here. Okay, so that's our outcomes. So the NIST framework, what is NIST? So National Institute of Standards and Technologies. George Washington basically started this organization as a way to measure weights of coins and monetary value. Like, we have to have a standard way across the board that we're gonna realize what the value of a coin is. Well, you fast forward to the year 2020, the federal government wanted a way for within the cybersecurity space to have a framework. So a framework is whatever you use it for, however you make it happen, but you're identifying, protecting, detecting, responding, and recovering. So from a very large organization standpoint, you're saying, let's look at what do we need to protect here? And if you're looking at your own home, it could be, the safe that's upstairs in your family heirlooms. So we identify it, and we put a plan in place. That could be just very easily having a security system that, and you've contracted it out and you're paying that monthly. And then that security system is actually going to be detecting what's going on around there. And then what do? You call the police, close the doors at night, maybe lock the windows, and then recover. You reflect on what happened. So that's a very basic way to say, hey, how do major organizations protect themselves? They do it within this framework right here. So when I look at some of the things that connected home, COVID has brought us many challenges, many people from working from home, many funny stories about kids telling their parents to be quiet because they're on a Zoom call when mom and dad are bringing in the bacon. I've heard just kind of crazy stories about working from home. This is what the connected home looks like, right? There's within many homes, you have your smart TVs, you have your home appliances that are connected through Nest, or fridge, washing machine, coffee makers, your TV streaming devices. I think my 4-year-old knows how to work the Netflix and the TV better than I do. There's just so many applications now that we have to be mindful. Many people have that smart speaker, the Alexa, or the Echo. We have a Ring doorbell that rings on my phone, and I need to get it on Janet's phone. But we're just so highly connected. It's amazing. But what comes inherently as part of this connectedness, and I think it was Greg who just said in the previous talk that we are the most connected generation, or most connected all the time from a technological standpoint, but not necessarily from the heart. But anyway, so when we look at what are the challenges with this, is from a Wi-Fi perspective, is you'd be amazed that people just have password for their Wi-Fi, for their home network. Many people will have passwords that they use across the board. I have a funny story. I know my wife's on this call here. I went to her work last year, and on her laptop, she had a Post-it note with 10 passwords for like every other. I said, "You're married to a cybersecurity guy. You can't have your passwords on a Post-it note." So my advice is, from a password perspective, there's many ways now to generate random passwords, and there's tools out there that will save those passwords. When possible, I would say 100% enable two-factor authentication, right? What does that look like? That's where you actually create that unique password, and then you get a text saying, "Hey, is this you? Is this really you?" Okay, very good. When you're at the house, also, we talked about the Wi-Fi network, but the router is actually what's throwing that signal out there. Guys, another thing that we say around here is, baby, you're worth it. Like, in terms of your house, baby, you're worth it. Go get yourself a new router for Christmas. Go down to Best Buy and talk to those guys at the Geek Squad. Tell them what you're doing. Tell them what devices you have going on, and what you're trying to do. And what's interesting is, one tip is split up the network, where you may have your laptop at home and your children's phones, etc., on one network, and then put the other smart technology on another network, just in case that gets hacked. You wouldn't want anyone. The biggest challenge with all these connected homes now is if a hacker actually hacked into your fireplace or your dishwasher, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But it's just, we don't want that vulnerability. So that's staying safe, connected in your home. Here's some online challenges that we're seeing. It's across the board. People hear about ransomware. What is ransomware? Well, essentially is when people can lock up your data and say, "Hey, pay me in Bitcoin," which is a cryptocurrency. And when you pay me in Bitcoin, I'll release your data. So there's a huge rise. In 2021, we're seeing ransomware is the biggest threat that is coming across the wires for major organizations, healthcare organizations. We're seeing a ton of that. But guess what? It's happening for small business as well. So all you small business owners out there, be very mindful of how you're securing your data and what you would do in the event that someone took it from you. I have the rise of the bots there. So I talked about these. IoT means Internet of Things devices, anything that's monitoring that connected fridge. And bots you can buy a bot for $5. And what people do illegally is they'll buy a bunch of bots and they'll send them after a specific website or a specific person to either take them down or to infiltrate. So there's bots or robots, essentially. So we're seeing many bots arise of that. Cloud data, always be careful about how you're securing your data and where you're putting it and what password you're using. Mobile malware. So hey, we all have the phone, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. It's so easy to just pick up your phone and you get an email and just click on a link that's going to download malware. What is malware? Well, it's malicious code, essentially, and that will hacking everything, lock up your phone. My goodness, what would happen if we didn't have our phone, Keith, for a day? So, and then the other thing is hacktivism. So what is hacktivism? We're seeing people, think of Charles Bronson and the vigilante, people who are taking justice in their own hands, and they're actually hacking other people to release their information, or if they're frustrated, or it's not even coming from nation states. So these are some of the online digital challenges. I wanted to put a few tips on here for staying safe online. I mentioned that ransomware is a big deal. When you're getting emails, look out for phishing scams. I have to check all the time. It may say Keith Wagner sent me an email with a link on there. I'll make sure that's actually Keith Wagner. You can go to the body of the email or to the header and say, okay, that really is him, and I am going to open that, or verify with the person who's sending it. Like, did you really send me this? I've had that happen. People are like, yep, it's definitely me. But be very careful and look at the header when someone sends you an email, especially if it has a link. So this is a bit of a laundry list. I mentioned earlier for passwords, this is just across the board. You can use on your phone, or if you're using Microsoft or Google, there's suggested passwords, and then they'll save it into a password protected tool. Go ahead and do that and change it often. Think about twice a year changing passwords. That's all I'll say on that. But the other thing is, you can use Microsoft OneDrive or Google Drive to share documents. If I want to send Keith this particular presentation, I would just send him a link, and I would send it just to Keith, so he couldn't forward it to anyone else, or if you did it in a private organization where no one else could forward it on. VPN, huge tool, great tool. You can get this on your phone as well. It's a virtualized private network. What does that do? If you're sitting in a Starbucks, when those open up again, to be in the dining room, if you're not on a VPN, you're on the public network, and anyone can see whatever you're looking at. And let's say you happen to check your banking account that day, so you log right in, get your credentials. A VPN creates a tunnel that will make it seem like you're actually on a corporate network. So they're very inexpensive to get a VPN. Click smart, like, hey, when we're out there on Facebook or wherever, these free offers, or a lot of it is bogus. There's that clickbait, the online quizzes. They want to capture personal information. And we used to fight wars over oil. We're going to fight wars over data. That's it, just honest to God. That is the most important currency out there right now, is data. And there's so much data, and it's figuring out what to do with that data. But it's being gathered on us all the time. So be very mindful of what you're clicking on. I mentioned mobile security. When you go to the Apple store, like, hey, this is a cool one for the kids. That's the biggest thing. People know that the kids want apps, and there's a lot of bogus apps out there that are just want to drop that malware that I talked about in there. So, or you'll get an app, or you get a text message. Okay, click on this. So, privacy settings on your phones, keep them high. You can go to Facebook, and they have a privacy setting. It's very hidden, but they'll allow you to enhance your privacy settings. So whatever you do, don't diminish those. I mentioned malware, antivirus software. It's very important. It comes typically with, when you look at your Apple phone, or I have an Apple, so I get those updates all the time. Guess what? Keep those updates going regularly, because those are patches in antivirus software. You might consider, I have Norton 360, which comes with LifeLock. Just from a very basic hygiene online perspective, that has a VPN built into it, and it's pretty robust. It won't let you go to many places. And if you want to really get in deep, I've seen in Illinois people who have had unemployment benefits during COVID in their name. And so what I recommend is go to the credit agencies and lock yourself up. It's a real hassle when you want to buy a house or something, but it's worth it, where the credit agencies will not allow credit to be taken in your name if it's locked up until you verify it. So those are some tools for staying safe online. And I wanted to tie this in. Keith, let me pause here. With any questions before I wrap this up? I'm looking at time here. I just have a few more slides. I think you're on mute, so I'll just continue.
Let me unmute here. Good information. I'm learning a lot just by taking a look at it. I mean, a lot of neat stuff. You guys, make sure everyone feels free to get your questions in. I mean, this is stuff for your life. Brian, is here for us so that we can learn about this. And Brian, is it okay if people send us some questions after the fact if I forward those on
Yep.
to you?
Yep, just so we can keep moving. I have my email address and website on there at the very end. Just a couple more thoughts, Keith, is bringing the emotional the EQ to IT. I think that's so important because our emotions can get tied up to what we do online and how we're acting. And so it's very important I have that balance between the head and the heart there. We've talked about that a couple of times. You know, how do you balance all? Because this is all very heady stuff, boring stuff. But if you bring the heart really to it, it'll bring some sense to what we're trying to accomplish. So I took that same framework, the NIST framework, that NIST, as I mentioned, George Washington, and I said, here's a framework for how you can stay safe in your heart. So you stay safe in your home, stay safe online, but stay safe in your heart too. Identify, take a look at what are your most important emotions. And maybe for your spouse or whatever relationship you're in, your 6 human needs, get clear. And really, from your heart, identify what's most important to you. And then keep those things protected with the right plans and strategies. That might be faith, whether it's church, Bible study, etc. Your fitness. Make sure you're going to the gym, doing what you need to do to keep that safe. Make sure your relationships are top of game. Hire coaches. And I have that in the next one. Detect. So, once you've identified what's really important and you've come up with a plan, now you got to make sure that you're detecting that, okay, I've got the plan in place, but am I really making sure that things are happening the way I want them? So instill those rituals. We've talked about this all afternoon, people talking about rituals. Keith asked me almost weekly, how are your rituals? You got to make your rituals sacred, is what he taught me. So instill those rituals to keep you aware for growth and improvement, as I mentioned. Hire a coach. That's another theme that's, Keith also asked me about monitoring reps. What does that monitoring rep mean? Well, a rep is something that you're repeating, and I looked at, there's many things that I repeat, but my father, I had been repeating reps about how he created male friendships that were not serving at an emotional level or weren't vulnerable. And so there's many things to respond or to do in that area. And then from a response standpoint, how do you have a systematic approach for matters of the heart to serve and contribute and find fulfillment? The last thing for your heart, stay safe. Take time for your heart to rest, to heal, to recover, and then repeat. So, Keith, thank you very much for allowing me on here today. I put it's kind of a little busy slide there, but that's my website with my email address. And what's important, or the whole part here, is that I'm here to serve, and it doesn't even have to be, if there's something there from a digital risk assessment, or you need a trusted advisor regarding cybersecurity issues, please reach out. If you'd like to discuss more about creating male friendships that are, transcend anything that we've learned in the past, I'm all game for that too. So just let me know, I can serve. And I'm grateful to be here today. Thank you very much.
Awesome, brother. Way to go. Yes. Way to go. I mean, wow. And so you guys see this, right? This is a huge thing. Brian has successfully bridged the gap between computer brain and human heart. Well done, brother. We've got a few questions coming in. Number one here by Greg. He says, how on earth do we manage all the passwords? What's the most important thing to do when you have been hacked? So 2 questions, passwords and what to do when you get hacked.
So regarding the passwords, there are, I'd be happy to, Greg, if you want to reach out, there's a few different apps that we can put on our phone or a laptop that'll manage. There's a 1Password is, for example, a service. It's actually a free app, and then they have different levels. So you can have that on your phone, but it's called 1Password, and it'll save, they'll save passwords. I'd be happy to send you more information. And the advice really is, if you've been hacked, is to call the police. Now, I'm going to tell you that, say for example, in Chicago, they're dealing with major cities are being defunded and this, that, and the next thing. You're not going to get the level of response. It's important to see if it was, from a financial perspective, do you need to change your credit card out? Do you need to go to the credit bureaus? When you have those things locked down with the credit bureaus, nothing is moving. Nobody's starting any credit, so it depends on how you've been hacked and what the level of severity is. But if it's at a level that you don't feel comfortable with, call 911.
Well said, brother. So make sure that we stay safe and we get that information passed on. Really good. Greg just also said security allows you to get out of your head so that you can work more on your heart. He said, awesome talk. Well done. Well
Thank
said,
you.
Greg. That's it. That's right. And Brian, let me ask you, a man that's been in the utmost of security, cybersecurity, been there probably from the beginning of even when that term was coined, cybersecurity. How have you seen cybersecurity really affect people's lives? I mean, it's easy to conceptualize livelihoods, like if somebody comes in and drains your bank account, but I love how you major in relationships and in human hearts. How have you seen cybersecurity, or the lack thereof, really affect people?
Yeah, I would say from a when we talk at the corporate level, it's a very heart-driven business where in the past it was typically men who were creating networks and trying to figure out speeds and feeds of wires and computers and printers. We're seeing more and more women entering in these what we call chief information security officer spaces. And why is that? Because they're not technical. They're very heart-driven. They can understand of connecting the dots, Keith, from executives down to the consumer. And so when I look at the space of cybersecurity, it's really changed from being the stereotypical geeks and nerds to really a business that affects everyone. They always say, it's just a matter, it's not if, but when, a company will be hacked or a person will be hacked, and to what degree. And so there's a ton of humility in this space right here. And I think it's ripe for even more humility. We say, these tools are a vehicle to serve, but the real issue is how are we keeping our hearts safe online and away from maybe the pitfalls or the temptations that are out there, or the scams or whatever. So does that answer your question, Keith?
It does. Well said. I like how you talk about that. There's something I like to talk about. I know you know what I'm talking about. I call it the treasure principle, right? The treasure principle. And, the Bible says where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And if we have stuff online, and I don't know anybody that does, if you're on this call, you're online because you're on this call, right? You're online, right? So, you've got to protect what's most important. And, that's a big part of what coaching is all about. What we're doing here is helping people identify the priorities, their treasures in life. And Brian, thank you, brother. If people want to connect with you, can they reach out with that information you've given us so that you can give them some even more tips? And, there may be some help that people need.
For cybersecurity tips, cookie tips, I don't have many cookie recipes, but, whatever, just reach out and say hello. And like I said, I think for me, the year 2021 is really the year of the deepened relationship. So that transcends cyber. And Keith, you're a connector. You told me one of your missions or purposes for this call was to connect good people together. And I want to be part of that. So if anyone needs anything, would like to connect even further, please reach out and or on LinkedIn or whatever it is. Like let's stay connected and use each other's brain power to make a difference.
Beautiful, brother. Thank you, brother. Joey just said, hey, Brian, said he'd love to reach out to you and connect possibly about some consultation for Chicago-based business.
Wonderful.
Yes, we can make Mr. Alpha Wolf there, as I call him, is a fantastic guy. And so I'd love to get you guys connected. Well said. And
I saw Lorette.
You see Lorette's stuff here?
Said I can't connect you with LinkedIn. Sorry, I think I have my first name. Yes, I'm trying to put some cyber controls in there, Lorette.
If you could get him that easy, you wouldn't want to hire him. Well said. Well done, guys. Let's hear some love. Let's give some love for Brian.
Thank you.
Way to go. Way to go. Humility is the new smart, guys. That's a book that's out there that's fantastic. In our digital age, people need to connect more and more and more. And that brings